What's up, guys? Welcome to Lunchtime in the Lab. Thank you so much for joining. Got a bit of a late start here today, so I apologize. If you're in the chat here, oops, I can hear myself talking. Let me close this. Got a late start. Luckily we did though. One of the plays, my guy just got ruled out, so that's kind of a bummer. What are you going to do? That is the nature of betting on football on week 18. It's a mess. Looking at the Discord here real quick, I have an anytime touchdown, which I hit an anytime touchdown play last night. One play that I dropped earlier in the Discord where the numbers change. It's going to be a podcast play as an official play, and then 2 anytime touchdowns. Builder-wise, I'm thinking the Bears and Packers game is going to be pretty good. And then the Bills and the Dolphins. These games are not very good, guys. We got to be careful. Make sure we're saving some units for the Natty tomorrow. All right, just making sure all my stuff looks like it's working. Hopefully you guys can hear me all right in the chat there. About 11 some people. So I appreciate you guys. So I will say, for the people that are live in the chat, I'm looking for Desmond Ridder rush yards. If any of you guys can find that for me, I was going to be on Heineke rush yards, but he had the ankle injury. I don't care who it is. That's just what I want. Nothing on FanDuel. So do me a favor, if you guys can find it, let me know by the end of recording the podcast here. That'd be fantastic. I was all over Heineke. So here, I'm gonna start this podcast up here though, and then if you guys have any questions or any comments or anything like that after we record the podcast, I can answer those. That way I don't make the podcast like too long for the people that listen to it, just audio version. That'd be great. But here we go. Ooh, I don't even know where my notes are, man. Here they are. All right, let's do this. What's up, and welcome to Lunchtime in the Lab, your number one gambling podcast. Oh, I started out bad already. Quick picks now live on YouTube. Today is Sunday, 11/7. Before we get into today's plays, as always, we need to look back and see what we did yesterday. Rearranging the stuff here. Bit of a later start, so I apologize for those that are listening to the Spotify, Apple, wherever you're at. YouTube was definitely the way to go today, as that's going to be, you get that viewing instantly. I have to save the podcast, post the podcast, edit it. We got about an hour until the game start, but we should still hopefully be okay. I'll make sure I get the link out. 2 in 1 day yesterday, though. We really should have had a sweep, though, dang it. But 2 and 1's positive, and we'll take that every single day. The one miss we did have was on the Steelers team total over 18.5. Somebody had tagged me in the Discord because I ended up being an official play of mine there as well in the Beer Money VIP. If you're interested in that and you're on YouTube or listen to the podcast, there's a link if you're on the podcast and Linktree, YouTube, a link in the bottom will take you to it. And if you're on YouTube too, I forgot to mention it, make sure you subscribe. I'm pushing 100 subscribers or whatever, so it's fantastic. 2 turnovers in scoring position, and they couldn't punch it in. They had the ball like 1st and 8 late in the fourth quarter, I think it was, and they ended up taking a field goal. It should have hit, man. I felt so good about that 18.5, but we move on. We missed it. Just a rainy, messy game, and if we would have got just one field goal out of those fumbles when they had it, outside of the 30, we would have been looking good. Next one, Texans -1.5. Was a little sweaty at the end there. Obviously, we missed. I live in Indiana, so there's a lot of people complaining about that guy, saying that they need to cut that running back and everything like that. I think it's funny. I've hated the Colts all my life, but, at the same time, I complain about the Vikings and people could put me down, so I guess I can't, complain about that too much. But that 1.5 was super easy. Texans looked pretty good. Minshew just looked terrible, man. That was god-awful. Dalton Schultz, receptions. Luckily, he had himself a legacy drive there. He had 4 catches in 1 drive late in the fourth quarter to cash our over 4.5 pretty easily. So that was fantastic to get that going. So a 2 in 1 day, podcast continues to be positive. So I certainly cannot complain. And we will move on. Luckily, I had 4 plays just in case we had some injury news. And boy, howdy, look at this. Heineke gets ruled out, and I liked his rush yards. I mentioned in the for those of you that joined a little late in YouTube live here, I am looking for Desmond Ridder rush yards. If we can find that and find me a book by the end of the podcast here, if anybody has happened to look around, it is not on FanDuel. I wanted Heineke rush yards, even with a bad ankle. The Saints give up the second most rush yards in the league. Every halfway mobile quarterback has had a ton of success. Ridder had 30 against them in week 12. So I will be all about taking Desmond Ridder, especially since he hasn't played in a while. He might have some happy feet. So if somebody can find it, give me a line. We'll get after that one. But we'll move on. I'm rocking Spotify. People can't see it. I got my Vikings hat and my Vikings little pullover. That's just fantastic. I love this thing. Justin Jefferson over. This line's moved since I made the podcast notes, unfortunately. 100.5 is what it's at. I didn't have time to shop too much. I got him running at 100.5 is our line. I normally don't play these high, but he has 882 yards on the year. He came back from injury after missing what seemed like half the season. His goal was to have 1,000 yards. He wants to have 1,000 yards every year in his career. He needs 118 yards. He needs 118 yards to hit his goal, and we have a line of 92. Wait, I see. There we go. I should have deleted that because it wasn't 92. We have a line of 100.5, depending on when you're looking at it here. So they just played the Lions. He just had 141 yards. He's got Nick Mullins throwing to him instead of Hall, who just had a terrible time. I don't know what coach is thinking, playing the backups, backup, and then we put Mullins in, but I know he's turnover prone. Anyway, Jefferson just played the Lions just literally like 3 weeks ago, if not like 2 weeks ago. He had 141 yards. Before that, in his last 6 games, he's at 141, 223, 14, 181, and 124. He obviously owns the Lions. This is a divisional matchup. He comes in ready to rock. And he's going to have Mullins throwing him, like I said. In this game, Mullins threw for 400 yards against the Lions just a few weeks ago. They have a pretty good connection, and he's obviously the true wide receiver number 1. Hawkinson's hurt. He tore that ACL. Jordan Addison is still a little banged up with an ankle injury, I think. Like I said, this is a divisional game. They're going to get after it. The Vikings' playoff chances are not dead, but they are severely, severely injured, and they certainly have to win this game to even have a hope, but they also need help. And I'm talking like a plus 2,500 parlay, all these things have to go right kind of thing for them to get in. But it starts with them winning, but it's a rivalry game anyway. So we're going to ride Justin Jefferson over 100 yards. I think I'll take that. ESPN Bet has, Jimmy, thank you, Desmond Ridder for over under 18.5 rush yards. I'm going to move on to my next one here, but I am going to look that up to make sure I can see that. I got a tab for every book. The next one's going to be DeAndre Hopkins over 64.5 receiving yards. This one it's an incentive bet for sure. DeAndre needs, and honestly, guys, I've seen this everywhere. I've seen he needs 39. I've seen he needs 49. I've seen people say he needs 60 yards. But I don't know what he needs, but he needs some yards to make some money. He needs some catches to make some money and needs some touchdowns to make some money. He's been on record saying that, he thinks that Will Levis is a athletic go-getter, like a winner, like a wants to win type of guy. And he's praised them. I think Levis is going to be there. This game doesn't matter for them outside of, trying to hurt the hopes of, the Jaguars. They need to win, but he faces a Jags team who gives up the 8th highest pass yards per game in the league. And like I said, he's been on record, praising his quarterback. I don't have a lot of, unfortunately, I don't really have, I see that Rismer. We're going to ride that. Sorry, flick off. I don't have a detailed Justin Jefferson, he's at 100 yards in 5+ games, blah, blah, blah. DeAndre Hopkins is a motivated guy. He's a good guy. There's been some great connection with Levis on these deep balls. We need a couple deep balls. The Jaguars are super susceptible to it. The Jaguars are favored, so there may be a positive game script in terms of the need to want to pass in this game for Hopkins. So Hopkins over 64.5 will be the play there. And we did find a Desmond Ridder live, so it pays to have. I'm glad we have this podcast going. So I hope it was worth it because we're going to ride it. Desmond Ridder on ESPN Bet, and if you look around, it may start to pop up at other places. 18.5 rush yards for -115 is what we're going to lock in. Now I can move on to my Heineke stuff. Heineke's line was 16.5, so I'm cool with it. 18.5 is perfectly fine. It's just a few more. I don't know if he's overly more mobile or anything like that. I don't know a whole lot about the guy, to be completely honest. I have some of Heineke's numbers here, but we can talk about the Saints. The Saints are known to give up a ton of rush yards quarterback. In fact, they give up the second most in the league at 24 yards per game. That is obviously dumbed down a little bit because they play, some people call them like lawn chairs. They don't move, I can't even remember who they just played, but he had like -1 yards or whatever. When they play mobile quarterbacks, these guys run on them. Desmond Ridder in week 12 ran for 30 yards against the Saints. We can get 18.5. Let's go. This is a playoff game. He hasn't played in a while. He very well could have happy feet. I think this is a fantastic look for him. This is a bet we've had success in the past. The Saints run a lot of man coverage. So as soon as they show their back to the quarterback, that's where the quarterback can take off and run. We've hit this plenty of times. Nearly every mobile quarterback has soared over this number against the Saints. And honestly, I could take that back. Rob, appreciate it. This on DraftKings, we got them up too. So we got DraftKings and ESPN Bet for those of you that are out there looking at it. Podcast, you listen to this one late. Hopefully FanDuel, because I was trying to have him in a parlay too. But DeVito ran for 36. Young ran for 40 and 34. Ridder ran for 30. Dobbs for 44. Badgett 70. T-Law 59. Baker 31. Love 39. I'm telling you, every mobile quarterback, every quarterback that can move has gone over versus Saints. We're going to ride that 18.5 with Ridder. And very lastly, this one's been posted in the Beer Money picks already, so it has moved a little bit since I posted it. Right before I started, I was seeing a 264.5 for Justin Fields pass plus rush yards. I don't know what's going on in Chicago. I don't have an answer. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. All I know is last game, they were the Bears or Soldier Field was chanting that they want to keep Fields. I think that, if he wants to stay, he's going to ball out. I don't know what's going on, right? So, but this is a Bears versus Packers game in December in Lambeau, I'm pretty sure. It's going to be a great game. The Packers need to win to get into the playoffs. And I tell you what, there is nothing more exciting than a Bears team wanting to go in there and play spoiler. My dad's a Bears fan. He was over here earlier and he said, I think the Bears are going to win. And I said, me too. The Bears are going to try to ruin things for them. In week 1, when the Bears and the Packers played, Justin Fields had 270 pass plus rush yards. DJ Moore only had 24 yards. Fields is over this number in 7 of his last 10 games and 5 of his last 6, including 2 straight. Justin Fields has been playing fantastic since coming back from his thumb injury. In his last 2 games against the Packers, he had that 275 that I mentioned. Last year, I think it was the end of last year, he had 325 pass plus rush yards against the Packers. I'm going to pull up the Discord here because I had a little extra points in here. I mentioned DJ Moore. So DJ Moore, when he put up that 24, when Fields went over by, the 275, that was his second lowest total that he's had all year. He had like a 14, and I'm pretty sure he got injured in that game. But we've seen 159, we've seen 114, we've seen 96, we've seen 230, we've seen 131, and we've seen 141 in this year. That was the first game that DJ Moore and Justin Fields got to play together as they were building any kind of camaraderie or cohesiveness, 264 or whatever number I said it was I think is extremely low. We got it for a few under that. 262 I think is what I put it in the Discord. Love it. Love the play. So, recap here real quick. And I need to kind of close this off so I can get it posted for you that are listening on the audio version. Here we go. So it's going to be Desmond Ridder over 18.5. Let me actually type this real quick. Ridder over 18.5 so I don't forget when I'm doing my tracker instead of the Heineke 16.5. That works out. Ridder over 18.5 yards. In fact, I might turn around and play that straight in the Discord. Ridder over 18.5 yards. Jefferson over 100.5. Receiving yards, Hopkins 64.5 because he's got those incentives. I think they're going to get after it. Favorite play of the day, Justin Fields, pass plus rush yards over 264. For those of you that are on YouTube, if you have any questions or anything like that, go ahead and pop them in there now. I'm going to close out on the podcast here. As always, I am your host. Your Lunchtime in the Lab will be brought to you every single day. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow me on all social medias at LiveJoeBets. In particular, Twitter, as that's the hub that I like to use, for everything. If you're interested in checking out YouTube, or you're on YouTube right now, make sure you give me a subscribe. That way you get notifications. At least I think you do when I go live or schedule live, when it's coming along. You can get some of that extra content that we have, the extra content ahead of time before we start the podcast, and then some of those questions that I'll be able to answer for the day. Like if someone's like, hey, what do you think about the so-and-so game tomorrow or whatever, So that's all I got. I'm going to close out the podcast here, see what's going on YouTube. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully we have ourselves another positive day like we have in the last few days in a row, and I'll be back tomorrow to discuss the national championship. I cannot wait. I know at least I'll have 3 plays. Maybe I'll go crazy since the last college football game. I will see you guys tomorrow, and good luck on the last week of the NFL today. Okay. YouTube. Questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I think I'm going to hop out of here. It is 12. I think my wife ordered food from, I think she said Elmo's, which is in a gas station. But I'll tell you, their subs are pretty good. DoorDash is our best friend when you got, little ones, and it snowed here a little bit too. So, where's my button? I'm going to close this. I see some of you guys hopping out of here. I appreciate it. If you guys are still in here, you're listening on the recorded version, I appreciate that just as much. Hit subscribe, continue to follow, like, and everything like that in the channel. Still trying to learn YouTube. Somebody mentioned adding where you can click and get the certain bets. I don't know how hard that is to do, but I am, I got a lot going on too. So we'll see how that goes. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Same thing. One last question. I don't know, to be honest. I really have only looked at Justin Jefferson in his matchup. I don't know if Jair Alexander's playing or not, which I'd imagine he probably is. But because he had such a bad game last time, and then the Bears' incentive to play against the Packers, I would think that it correlates with liking Justin Jefferson's yards. It correlates with DJ Moore because he's his main target. If DJ Moore is successful, Justin Jefferson's going to be successful, and vice versa. So I'm going to close this out though. Appreciate you guys. And of course I'll be back tomorrow unless something crazy happens. Have a good one.